Alex Eala walked onto a practice court at Indian Wells at noon this year. Not a match, a practice session. Hundreds of people packed in around it. On the courts beside her, Alexander Zverev and Taylor Fritz, a former world number 2 and a top 10 American, at an American tournament, could only reel in a handful of fans. Her crowd was compared to the crowds that gather for Carlos Alcaraz, for Jannik Sinner, for Venus Williams. And the man who runs that tournament, Philippe Dor, said this on the record: "We love every minute of it. We benefit from it. We promote it. They benefit from it." His word, not mine. And still, when the schedule went out, they gave her Stadium 3. Late at night. Subscribe now and stay inside this story, because what happens to Alex Eala in Cincinnati over the next 48 hours is the exact thing this entire sport has been getting wrong for 8 straight months. To understand what is happening right now, you need to go back to January. The Australian Open, the first Grand Slam of 2026. Alex Eala walks into the main draw of a major, and for an entire country, a country that had never produced a player anywhere near this level, it is a genuine national event. The tournament put her on a small court. Understand what that decision actually means. A court that size is not built for a moment. It is built for the matches nobody is expected to watch. It is the venue you assign when your projection says the seats will be half empty. Filipino fans queued anyway. And they kept queuing. The lines ran back across the grounds. People who had flown in could not get within sight of the court. Fans who did get in had to stand because there was nowhere left to sit, and she lost that match. In 3 sets, that is the part people skip. The first great data point in the Eala effect was not a victory. It was a defeat, played out in front of a crowd the tournament had built a wall around. Here is what nobody planned for. When a tournament undercourts a player, the damage does not stop at the gate. The people locked outside do not go home neutral. They go home angry. And some of that anger, in January, came back at Eala herself. She was 21 years old, carrying the expectations of 120 million people, and she had just lost a first-round match on a court built for qualifiers. That is the weight that does not appear in a rankings column. And the response to that weight, from Alex Eala, was not a statement. It was not a press conference. It was 8 months of results that made the scheduling decision impossible to repeat. February, Dubai. Eala goes on a run to the quarterfinals, and every single match she plays sells out. Not the finals, not the marquee night sessions. Every match she plays. Sit with that for one moment, because it is the cleanest possible test. Dubai is a tournament stacked with the very top of the women's game, and the matches that emptied the box office were the ones with a player ranked outside the top 30 on the card. And this is where you get the detail that should have ended the argument permanently. Jessica Pegula, a former world number 2, a woman who has played in front of roaring crowds on 4 continents, was in her hotel at that tournament, and she could hear it. The noise, at night, from inside the building. The player those people were roaring for was not the champion. She had already lost, and still the sound she left behind was louder than the sound for the winner. The tour had its answer in February. It kept scheduling like it was still January, March, California. This is where it stops being anecdotal and starts being measurable, because Indian Wells accidentally published the evidence itself. The tournament posted a day-in-the-life video featuring Alex Eala on its own YouTube channel. That video did 94,000 views. It became, by a distance, the most watched video the BNP Paribas Open put out all year, not the Champions video, not the men's final. A day in the life with a player the schedulers kept putting on secondary courts. So here is the question the entire second half of this video is going to answer. If the tournaments know they benefit from it, if the executives are saying it out loud, on the record, into microphones, then why does she keep ending up on the small court? July 4th, Wimbledon, 3rd round. Alex Eala walks on court against Iga Świątek, the defending champion. A player who at that point had won 5 Grand Slam titles. First set, tiebreak. Świątek gets a set point at 6-5. Eala saves it. Świątek gets another at 8-7. Eala saves that one too. Eala takes the breaker 11 points to 9. The second set is not close. 6-2. She beat the reigning Wimbledon champion 7-6, 6-2, and she became the first Filipina in the Open era to reach the second week of a Grand Slam. She had also, at that tournament, become the first Filipino player ever seeded at a major. And notice what changed and what did not. The seeding changed. The history changed. And in the very next round she went out to Jasmine Paolini, the number 13 seed, and the tour packed up and moved on to the North American hard courts, still treating her as a scheduling afterthought. That lasted 3 more weeks. The Mubadala DC Open, late July. Look at the draw she walked into. Jessica Pegula, Naomi Osaka, Venus Williams, Madison Keys, Elina Svitolina, Leylah Fernandez, the defending champion. 6 players with genuine global name recognition, Grand Slam champions among them. And before Alex Eala had hit a single ball, the tournament chairman, Mark Ein, revealed the number that should be printed on the wall of every scheduling office in professional tennis. At least 80% of the ticketing questions that tournament received were about Alex Eala. 80%. In that draw, about the player ranked 28th in the world. Now watch what she did with the stage once she finally got it. Round of 16, she beats Leylah Fernandez, the defending champion of that tournament. Quarterfinals, she beats Elina Svitolina, the number 2 seed. Semifinals, she beats Naomi Osaka, the number 3 seed, a 4-time Grand Slam champion. Final, Jessica Pegula, world number 3, top seed. And then it rained. The final began on the Sunday and the sky opened, rain and lightning, with Pegula ahead, 6-4, 1-2. They came back on the Monday, a Monday final, the worst attended slot in professional tennis, the slot tournament's dread. Alex Eala won at 4-6, 6-4, 6-love. A bagel in the deciding set to become the first player from the Philippines in the entire history of the sport to win a WTA Tour singles title. And Mark Ein stood on that court at the trophy ceremony on a Monday, looked out at what was in front of him and said this: "This might be the greatest crowd for a Monday final anyone's ever seen." A Monday. $252,000 in prize money, 500 ranking points, and a jump from world number 28 to world number 20, the first Filipina ever inside the top 20 of the WTA rankings. Now here is the section I want you to pay the most attention to, because this is the control group. This is what happens when one tournament, finally, does the obvious thing. The National Bank Open, Toronto. 1 week after Washington. Toronto put Alex Eala in the night session, not for the final, not for a quarterfinal, for all 3 of her matches. Her opening singles match sold out center court in under 30 minutes, around 10,000 seats, gone in half an hour. Then her doubles match, a night match, partnering Venus Williams, sold out as well. Roughly 3,100 tickets moved after the Wednesday night session was announced. Announced. Not played. Announced. And the tournament director, Carl Hale, said the quiet part into a microphone. A sold-out Wednesday night this early in the tournament is really unheard of. Unheard of. His words. So Toronto did the thing Melbourne did not do. The tournament director moved every single one of her matches to center court, because there was nowhere else in the facility that could physically hold the people who wanted in. And then came the detail I cannot stop thinking about, because it is the moment the Eala effect stopped being about tennis at all. A food vendor inside that stadium pulled chicken teriyaki off the menu and replaced it with a Filipino chicken adobo rice bowl. That is not a marketing department. Nobody at the WTA authorized that. That is a business owner looking at who is actually walking through the gate and rewriting the menu to match. Venus Williams, standing next to all of it, said, "Alex is a world star. She's just incredible." Coco Gauff said, "It's so great for the sport and great for all the players." Even Jessica Pegula noted that her own podcast saw huge growth on YouTube, driven by a campaign from Eala's fans. Her fans grew the podcast of the woman she beat in a final. That is not a fan base. That is an economy. And then, on the 9th of August, it stopped. Round of 16 in Toronto. Belinda Bencic, world number 14, 12th seed, Olympic gold medalist from Tokyo. The first meeting of their careers. 6-4. 6-love. 1 hour and 13 minutes. A bagel in the second set. Alex Eala's 7-match winning streak was over. And I want to be honest with you about why. Because the sanitized version helps nobody. She had just won the biggest title of her life in a 2-day rain-delayed final on the Monday. She flew to Toronto. She played back-to-back 3-set matches. She played every one of them in a night session in front of 10,000 people who had queued for hours, carrying a flag and a country and an expectation. 2 weeks of the most emotionally expensive tennis of her life caught up with her inside 73 minutes. Bencic played superbly. But nobody who watched that fortnight thinks Alex Eala lost that match only to Belinda Bencic. Which brings us to right now, the Cincinnati Open. Mason, Ohio. And Alex Eala arrives with the highest seeding of her entire career at a WTA 1000 event, the number 17 seed. There is a wrinkle in that, and it is worth knowing. She is ranked 20th in the world, but seeded 17th. And the reason is that 3 players above her withdrew: Karolina Muchova, Jasmine Paolini, and Victoria Mboko. She was moved up by absence. The draw is 96 players, so the top 32 seeds receive a first-round bye. Eala does not play on the opening days at all. Her second round is Elena Gabriela Rus of Romania. And this is not a routine draw, it is a debt. Rus is 28 years old, currently ranked 77th in the world, career-high 51st back in 2022. She got to Eala by taking apart Magda Linette's 6-love 6-3, and the two of them have met once before, the final round of qualifying at the 2024 U.S. Open. Eala won the first set 6-3. Rus won the second 6-1, and then took the decider. Rus leads their head-to-head 1-0. She is the woman who stopped Alex Eala from qualifying for a Grand Slam. Beyond that match, the projected path runs through the 9th seed Amanda Anisimova, and beyond her, in a quarter of the draw stacked with Sabalenka, Swiatek, Rybakina, and Goff, it does not get easier. And here is the thing I cannot tell you yet, because as of the morning of this match, the tournament had not published it. We do not know what court they have put her on. The order of play went out without a court assignment for the match that a very large share of the Philippines has arranged its Saturday around. So this is the open question, and it is a real one. Cincinnati has watched everything in this video happen. They watched Melbourne undercourt her and get overrun. They watched Dubai sell out every match she played. They watched Indian Wells make its most viewed video of the year about her. They watched Washington field 80% of its ticket inquiries about one player. They watched Toronto sell 10,000 seats in half an hour and move a vendor's entire menu. Cincinnati has all of that information. Every tournament does now. The only question left is whether they act on it, or whether they do what Melbourne did in January and find out the hard way. There is a sound Jessica Pegula could not sleep through in a Dubai hotel. There is a line of people in Melbourne that stretched across a Grand Slam's grounds for a court built for qualifiers. There is a practice session in California that drew more people than a top 10 American at an American tournament. There is a food vendor in Toronto who took chicken teriyaki off the menu. There is a tournament chairman who stood on a court on a Monday afternoon and said he had never seen a crowd like it. And there is a ranking column that read 28 3 weeks ago and reads 20 today. The player is no longer the story. What the sport decides to do with her is the story. From this point forward, the stakes only compound. Every match the institution gets wrong, the army gets louder. Cincinnati's answer comes today. Subscribe now and stay inside this story, because what happens to Alex Eala over the next 48 hours is the exact thing this entire sport has been getting wrong for 8 straight months.